Good evening. Thank you for a warm welcome, and thank you also for the opportunity to speak to all of you tonight. I also want to thank the Al Mazan Trust for supporting our work and our clients, and I must say it makes a huge difference to their lives. So thank you for your support. We know that the UK is the world's 5th largest economy, yet 1 in 5 of the population lives below the official poverty line. As Britain's wealth has increased, so too has the disparity of those who are below the poverty line. But what is that line? When is it that that line is crossed and it is no longer acceptable? Torture is the total perversion of all that is good in human relationships. Survival after such experiences becomes a very painful and a very difficult thing to live with. Days become filled with memories of past trauma and loss, and the dark hours become filled with nightmares, shame, and self-loathing. In fact, the world becomes a place in which no one can be trusted. Our clients are ordinary people, people who just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, people whose lives have been turned inside out because of something random. Perhaps they are the innocents who got caught up in the crossfire of conflict. Perhaps they believed in a slightly different God, fell in love with the wrong person, or just happened to speak up against something they believed in. The common feature in every case is that they have suffered immense human cruelty. And as a result, they were tortured, trafficked for labour or sexual exploitation, kept in conditions of slavery, or endured family or community violence. They have suffered events that we would not imagine that we could survive. In our view, all of these experiences of extreme, multiple, and repeated violations constitutes torture. Our clients have had their voices taken away twice. First, when they suffer these traumatic events, and second, when they are disbelieved and ignored. Many, as a result, can become destitute, without food or shelter, sleeping on the street, in empty shops, or on the night bus. This is where the work of the Helen Bamber Foundation begins. We are a team of doctors, therapists, lawyers, welfare and housing experts that work predominantly with asylum seekers and refugees. We combine principles of therapeutic principles, legal protection, and the prevention of social deprivation as the cornerstones of treatment, and our model of care is not available in external agencies such as the NHS. We do this because you cannot provide treatment if there is no food or shelter. You cannot think of sustaining recovery until there is safety and protection. Every element of our model is pursued for every client that comes to us. To give you a context of our work, I thought I would share the story of one of our clients. This is a story of a woman called Yasmin. Yasmin was 15 years old when her father was tortured and executed without trial. She was captured by rebels during civil war, beaten, and kept as a sexual slave for 2 years. When she finally escaped and reached the refugee camp, she was met by a man who promised to help her. She was trafficked to the UK and taken to a basement and exploited for 6 years. When she finally came to us, she needed specialist care to stabilise her acute symptoms, in which she wanted to end her life. Her claim for international protection had been refused because they said she could not be believed. She was not believed because she could not remember the name of the man who had trafficked her to the UK. We helped her find a reputable lawyer and wrote medical evidence to document the physical and psychological scars that she bears. When she was housed in asylum seeker accommodation with men, she suffered re-traumatization that resulted in flashbacks, nightmares, and intrusive thoughts because of her past experiences. Our team of therapists, doctors, and lawyers responded to stabilise her symptoms and worked to move her into appropriate accommodation. When her asylum card no longer worked, she could not access food. We intervened and found the Home Office had stopped her voucher because she had not reported. This was despite our informing them that she could not report because she was hospitalised. At every turn, we have to intervene for our clients. At every turn, there is utter torment for our clients. And this is their poverty as asylum seekers. We attended court and gave expert evidence for Yasmin, and eventually she was recognised as a refugee and given international protection. But the euphoria was short-lived. Within 28 days, her asylum seeker support and accommodation was terminated and she was made destitute. Unable to receive her biometric residence permit or national insurance number within 28 days, she could not access welfare or even open a bank account. Now, street homeless, the council refused to recognise her as a vulnerable person in need of priority housing. Needless to say, her mental health symptoms exacerbated, and Yasmin needed intensive psychological input to prevent her hospitalisation. Our doctors gave evidence again. To highlight her vulnerabilities, we had to find a lawyer who could take immediate action. Eventually, and only after all of these steps, was Yasmin finally given safety, shelter, protection, and welfare. She was now aged 27. This is poverty when someone is finally recognised as a refugee. This was 2 years ago, and Yasmin is now settled and is studying to become a nurse. She joined our creative arts program at the foundation, a program in which people are eventually able to make beautiful things through painting, making films that have been shown at BAFTA, to writing music and songs that have been played at the Royal Festival Hall and the British Museum. Here is our music group, Woven Gold, and Yasmin is one of the people you see in this picture. We have many such stories. Through treating people with dignity and helping them to access healthcare, legal advice, and human rights, we prevent re-trafficking, self-harm, isolation, as well as detention and the wrongful removal from the UK. People are referred to us by lawyers, by GPs, the NHS, police, schools, social services, and so on. And we work with about 1,200 people a year. Last year marked the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II. This year in January, we commemorated Holocaust Memorial Day. But yet, there remains the talk of swarms of people who want to come to the UK for our benefits, to appropriate our way of life. Those who do not die in reaching our shores, they say, should not be allowed into the UK, because it will only encourage others to do the same. Politics of fear is being used to trick people into thinking that all societal and economic problems stem from an alleged open border and a mythical generosity of benefits. Fear that migrants who are hungry and want to make a new life are shameful. As the barbed wire fences and borders are raised even higher across Europe, it is so important that the borders do not go up in our minds. 141 countries currently practice state-sponsored torture. 36 million people are living under the conditions of slavery, that is 2.5 times that of the total held throughout the 350 years of the transatlantic slave trade. 7.6 million people have been displaced because of conflict or persecution, and 80% of the world's refugees are in the developing world. Those who come to our shores do so because many of them need safety and refuge. I asked at the beginning, when is that line crossed? That line is crossed when those who are vulnerable do not receive care, shelter, food, when they are forced to live in fear and suffer further inhumanity and degradation as they struggle to be believed. In the face of rhetoric that says it will cost too much, we have to remember that those who are the most vulnerable have so much to give if given the chance to recover. Before I end, I want to read the words of Helen Bamber. She began her career working with survivors of the former concentration camp in Bergen-Belsen in 1945, and she dedicated her life to working with those who had suffered immense atrocity and founded the Helen Bamber Foundation at the age of 80, an inspiration for us all, I think. Helen was asked, alongside people like Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu, that if you only have enough breath for 99 words, what would they be? And these are her words. People often ask me why I have spent most of my life concerned with the consequences of conflict and violence. The simple answer is why not? The honest answer is difficult. It is about the suffering of refugees. It is about the short life of compassion, how quickly it is born and how quickly it dies. It is about the stranger to whom we owe nothing. It is how our society will be judged and how we discover our humanity. It is finding our reward through the eyes of those to whom we owe nothing. It is about love. Thank you.